Hello guys and welcome back to another episode of our EAFC 25 career mode here with Southampton. We're returning today with the Season 3 finale, our last game in the Premier League as we look to secure Champions League football for next season. It's very tight between ourselves, Chelsea and Liverpool. One of us will miss out. Two of us will be playing Champions League football next year. We've got a full season roundup to come later on as well. But before we jump into that, I think it's time to give a bit of a Youth Academy update as we've just played in our final Youth Academy tournament of the season. Well, the Youth Academy itself is getting pretty full, so we might have to promote or release some players for this final batch of scouting, but I'm not sure we're going to find anyone. Oh, hang on. Nicolo Messina may be the one. I'm gonna give him the scholarship. Nicolo, the one San Marino player. I think the rest I'm probably just gonna leave. There is an okay looking left back, Saverio Sala, who I'm tempted to give a scholarship to. So we may come back for him, but for now I'm gonna leave it there. As for Rwanda, I think I'm going to give out one more scholarship. Jean looks okay, but I'm going to give one here to Dominic Chikaya, only 14 years of age, so we're going to give him a scholarship. And as for the rest of these guys, I think I'm probably just going to let them leave. And as for England, well, we've already had some pretty good Youth Academy players come through, but I'm really not too sure who I'm going to give a scholarship to. Henry Middleton looks very good, just 14 years of age, so he's got a long way to go, but 75 to 93 potential could be pretty good, but it is only our first month's worth of scouting, so I think I might leave him and actually just go for George Forrest, 85 to 91. He's looking very decent indeed, and we may come back for one or two others. And interestingly enough, I've just seen two youth player unsettled emails, so Joseph and Ibu Sonko, both wanting pro deals. Joseph, we definitely do not want to lose, so he will be going to the senior team. And Ibu Sonko as well, the Sadio Mane regen, we will promote him to the senior team as well. So that does actually free up a few spots in the academy. As for the time being, I'm going to leave it as we are, and I may go back between now and the end of the month to pick up maybe one or two more. So, right, that will do it for the Youth Academy, and jumping into our first and only game of today's episode, we know that a win will guarantee Champions League football as we travel to Portman Road. Chelsea host Bournemouth at Stamford Bridge, where I'd expect them to win, but Liverpool have a tricky test away at the Emirates, which could be a nice little buffer for us. We just need to do our job against already relegated Ipswich and pick up the 3 points on the road. Come on, you Saints. So yeah, underway here at Portman Road. I've got the goal alerts on for Chelsea and Liverpool, but we know that they don't work properly, so we'll see what happens. I've made a few changes to the team, as I always do on the final day. Some send-offs, as there will certainly be a few players moving on in the summer, and I think it's going to be quite a big summer window for us as well, heading into Europe for the first time. And we're going to have to rebuild the squad a little bit and add some more quality and some European experience, whether that be in the Champions League or the Europa League. And we're also going to have to try and keep hold of our star players, as Kimpembe's shot is loose and cleared by Ipswich. Goal at Chelsea as well. It's one apiece there. Chelsea were in front, but Bournemouth have pegged them back through, I assume, Ryan Christie, but that's the one game I would have expected to be a little bit of a banker with Chelsea winning, but so far pegged back as Brereton. Diaz's shot is palmed away by Erbig. Well, first half done and dusted, pretty uneventful other than a few little half chances, but we know that destiny's in our own hands. We just need to remain patient, wait for that opening as Evan Nilsson looks to strike, and Ipswich will clear. We've had most of the ball and most of the territory, but not really done much with it. And we need to find a goal in this second half as well. Villa have gone a goal up, but that doesn't affect us because they're already set to finish in second. And that will probably do it at Portman Road. We've not managed to do the job and pick up the victory that we needed, but depending on the results elsewhere, that may still be enough for Champions League football for next season. It seems to be some subdued celebrations. Ipswich, the home team, already know that they're down, but we've no idea what the score was at Stamford Bridge or at the Emirates. Right, well, as we advance through after the game, if Chelsea and Liverpool have won, well, Chelsea have lost there. I didn't see the Liverpool result, but I think that means that it is done. So Champions League football wrapped up for next season. Chelsea will join us in the competition, but with Liverpool losing away to Arsenal, they will head into the Europa League for next season. Manchester City champions and clear by 7 points in the end. We only had 4 losses this season, but just too many draws on the board once again. Best defence in the league, but only 3 teams scored less goals than us this season, and you know that is a bit of a concern. We have improved from last year where we did really struggle, but 40 goals, I guess it is an improvement, and our league position a vast improvement as well. Liverpool will go into the Europa League along with Spurs, and West Ham into the Conference League, I believe, depending on the cup winners. Arsenal, Brighton and Crystal Palace wrap up the top half of the table. Really poor season for United in 11th, Newcastle 12th, Brentford, Bournemouth both over the 40-point mark, and then Leeds and Wolves, with Fulham surviving the bottom 3, with Everton, Ipswich and Leicester City going back down to the Championship this year. As for the cup winners, well, it was Tottenham finally ending the trophy drought as they get their hands on the League Cup once again, beating Liverpool in the final by 2-1. And the FA Cup was won by Chelsea on penalties after a 0-0 draw with Everton at Wembley. As for the European competitions, it was another Spanish side winning in Europe. The Conference League won by Villarreal, beating BSC Young Boys in the final by 2-1. But it was the Germans Eintracht Frankfurt who got their hands on the Europa League this season, beating English opposition in the final as they defeated Liverpool by 2-1. And the Champions League was won by Manchester City once again. So a League and Champions League double for Pep Guardiola's men as they defeat Real Madrid in the final by 2-1. Aston Villa going all the way to the semi-finals. What a season for Unai Emery and his side, second in the Premier League and a semi-final place of the Champions League. Well, we'll take a look around the leagues as we always do, as Nottingham Forest and Burnley coming back up to the Premier League, with the playoffs being contested between Norwich, Sheffield United, Millwall and Swansea City. The Women's Super League, for those that are interested, was once again won by Chelsea, back on top in the WSL for consecutive seasons. Ligue 1 was once again won by Paris Saint-Germain, although there was only a point in it between themselves and Marseille. Lyon in 3rd, Monaco 4th and RC Lens in 5th as PSG win back-to-back championships. The Bundesliga this year was won by Borussia Dortmund. They were runners-up in the Champions League last year in the save, but Bayern Munich, who got back on top in Germany last year, finishing in 3rd behind Leverkusen and the eventual winners Borussia Dortmund. In Italy, it was Lombardia FC, also known as Inter Milan, getting one over on their crosstown rivals AC Milan, who were looking to defend their championship, but fell short by 8 points to Inter. As for the Eredivisie, well, we saw Feyenoord win the title undefeated last year in the save, but they were 14 points off eventual winners Ajax, who were 5 clear of PSV to win the Eredivisie title. Another change of winners in Portugal was Benfica back on top and clear of Sporting, who won it last year by 11 points. Really good season for Benfica to win the Liga Portugal once again after finishing in 4th place last year. And the Saudi Pro League this year, not won by Al Hilal. They were in 2nd place, 3 points behind the eventual winners Al Ittihad, who win the league with just 2 losses in 34 games. As for the SPL, I know I've got a lot of fans who are interested in this, and it was Celtic once again pipping their fierce rivals to the title. Just 1 loss in the league phase for Celtic, who finished 13 points clear of Rangers in 2nd. And as for La Liga, another change, a winner from last year is Real Madrid back on top in Spain. 1 point clear of Barcelona in 2nd. Sevilla having a really good campaign in 3rd, with Athletic Bilbao in 4th, meaning Atletico Madrid into the Europa League for next year and not the Champions League. And we'll end on this one. Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce on top in Turkey. Just 1 defeat for them as another league where we had a different champion to last year, pipping Galatasaray to the title by 3 points in Turkey. As for the individual player stats, well, Nicholas Jackson won the Golden Boot last year, joint with Alexander Isak with 26 goals. But he wins it outright this year with 29 goals in 37 appearances. The Premier League player of the season, and there's no real doubt with those numbers. But we did see Evan Nilsson into the top 5 with 18. I think he managed to sneak into the top 10 last year, but this year, really good season for him, and 18 in 37 for the Brazilian. As for the assists, well, Einstein absolutely flew out of the blocks, but had a pretty quiet second half of the season and ended up falling short to Phil Foden, who was the top creator in the Premier League this year for Manchester City. And as for clean sheets, he's done it once again, 26 in 38 for the Kosovan Aro Muric. Really good season. He broke the record held by Petr Cech last year for the most clean sheets in a Premier League campaign with 26. He couldn't quite top it this year, but he does match 26 once again in 38 appearances in the Premier League. And before we take a look at the squad report, we've got another player asking for a pro deal, Trezor Barney. We definitely do not want to lose him. So he'll be promoted to the senior team and we will look to loan him out. I think I'm going to have quite a few players between now and the end of the season asking for a pro deal, as we have got a few now up to 17 and 16 years of age who have been in the academy for quite a while. But we've already gone through the youth academy, so I think we will just go through the first team squad. We've got quite a few players to get through, so I'll try not to natter on for too long. Scott Carson, we know he's just here for the vibes, 53 overall now, and yeah, just brought in to be a dressing room leader. But we know it's Muric who's the out and out number one. 26 clean sheets in 38, as we discussed a moment ago, up to 82 overall, and I certainly will not be looking to sell him in the summer unless it is to probably one of the big boys, Manchester City, Real Madrid, PSG, one of those types. Bazunu, pretty decent backup, but he's not really grown too much this year. He did keep 2 clean sheets in the FA Cup, but yeah, just played in the cup games. Shane Malcolm developing really nicely out at Stuttgart's reserves, their second team, up to 70 overall, and he is my my long-term number one at the club, but he's still got, I think, a year and a half out on loan in Germany. Leif Davis, we know, has handed in a transfer request. With just 2 years left on his deal, we are probably going to have to sell him in the summer, but it was probably his best season for the club this year. 2 goals and 1 assist and 25 clean sheets in the Premier League. He's just so solid down that left-hand side, but we will probably have to sell in the summer and look to upgrade. As for Dennis Shirkin, not really too sure what's going to happen to him. He's 25 now, so he's not exactly young. Not really growing anymore at 72 overall. I may look to cash in on him in the summer and bring in a better backup at left back. We've got Larios and Kai Vaughan both out on loan, looking pretty decent. Both have a year left on their loans. Kimpembe brought in to, I saw a nice comment the other day, revitalise his chances of getting back in the French national team. And he had a pretty solid season for us. Only 19 appearances in the Premier League, so exactly half, but very, very solid when he did step in. Tricky to get him into the team when we've got Solé, who's just so good. I'm really worried that there's going to be more big bids for him in the summer, but now we've secured Champions League football, maybe we offer him a new deal with just 2 years left on his current contract. And Taylor Harwood-Bellis as well handed in the transfer request. I tried to share the game time out between him and Kimpembe, but we know he submitted that transfer request. He's still got 4 years left on his contract, so he's going absolutely nowhere. We've got Nathan Wood and Ronnie Edwards, who are both squad centre-backs. I'm not sure what's going to happen. One of them may get sold in the summer. Probably more likely to be Edwards, as he's been out on loan the last few years. And Nathan Wood will continue to be the backup. But of course, we're going to have a Champions League football for next season as well. We've got Nico Lawrence and Zach Orr coming back from loans. They'll probably both be sold on a permanent. The captain, Carl Walker-Peters, pretty solid season for him. Went up a rating or two, I think. And he's not really growing anymore. But we just know what we get from KWP down that right-hand side. Very, very solid. And as I say, wearing the captain's armband still. Trey Hume, I like him as a backup, but another that's handed in a transfer request due to the lack of game time, so we will probably look to sell him. Lewis Payne is probably going to be sold in the summer as well. Harrison Reed was just brought in on a short-term loan. He is a homegrown player, so now playing in the Champions League, he could be one that we look to bring back, as we are going to need 4 homegrown trained at the club players. But we do have Will Smallbone, who also fits into that category. Doesn't really play too much. He doesn't really moan too much either, but I might give him a new deal in the summer. Flynn Downs, very, very solid season for him. Played in 31 of our 38 Premier League games. No goals, 2 assists, but he just keeps everything ticking over in that midfield. Really, really like Flynn Downs heading into the prime of his career at 28. Gruev, a very, very solid option as well. Probably likely to play a little bit more next season now that we're in the Champions League and we're going to have lots of midweek clashes. Took a slightly reduced squad role down to rotation in the summer, which did help. And yeah, just a really solid option to have off the bench. Yusuf featured a lot more this season, stayed injury free, and featured in 36 of our 38 Premier League games. Managed to pick up 3 assists as well, which is pretty decent for the deepest of our midfielders. But yeah, he just does all the dirty work, a lot of the stuff that you don't see on camera, but he was absolutely superb for us this year, growing a rating as well, I think up to 81. St. Maximan into his 30s now, and we brought him back to give us a bit more flair and a bit more of a goal threat on that left hand side. Only picked up the 2 goals, 5 assists for the Frenchman in his return to the Premier League, and of course one of those goals came on his debut against Brentford. So yeah, a bit of a mixed feeling with ASM. He's really good in game, he plays really nicely, but I would like a bit more of a return from him. I feel like in this formation I don't get the best out of my wingers. Brereton Diaz being slightly phased out of the team more and more now. I'm not sure whether he's going to stay or not for next year. I think he has played in Europe when he was at Villarreal, so I might look to keep him. He's a decent squad player, 28 years of age, doesn't mind too much that he's not been playing. Just 1 year left on his contract. We may look to extend that in the summer. But saying that, we have got Sam Edozie coming back from his loan. Nice little 6-month spell out at Leganés, grown up to 76 overall. And I do think potentially if we do look to shift on Ben, Sam Edozie is ready to come back and be a option off the bench with that pace that he's got. But yeah, pretty decent player. I like Edozie. Says he hasn't played any games or got any goals, but I know he did score, I think, one in the early round of the FA Cup before heading out to Spain. JWP came back to the club in the summer, and yeah, just a bit of a leader, a Saints legend. Played quite heavily in the Premier League, featuring in 29 of our 38 Premier League games, despite him having a red thumbs down for the playtime. But yeah, really like JWP. Still waiting to try and strike a real free kick with him. We had that one off the crossbar in the FA Cup early rounds, but he did get a goal and 2 assists from that slightly deeper role. And yeah, just a big fan favourite at St Mary's. Matsuki's not really grown, so I might look to cash in on him in the summer. Cameron Bragg also due back at the club. Might send him out on loan again, or might just look to shift him on, as he's probably never going to develop to play a part in the starting lineup. As for Sem Stein, Einstein, really solid season for the Dutchman this year. 7 goals and 11 assists. So what's that? 18 goal contributions in 35 in the Premier League. Started the season like a house on fire and then sort of fell off a little bit towards the end of the campaign. But still a really good season for the Dutchman. As for Fernandez, well, he had a good little run towards the end of the season when Stein dropped off. 2 goals and 4 assists. Still not particularly happy with his game time, but he's not growing at the moment. His growth is stunted, which is a real shame. And I'm not sure whether we will look to cash in the summer or keep him as competition for Stein. I'm really not too sure. A couple of the youngsters, though, Hodgson developing really nicely. He's still got a year on loan at Cosenza. And Lewis Turner, who is due back at the club this summer, up to 75 overall. Is he good enough to play a part in some way, shape or form? I'm not too sure. That 18 heading accuracy is hilarious. Do we send him out on loan for another year or look to keep him? I really don't know. We might have to make a decision in the summer. I'm leaning maybe more towards a loan with the likes of Fernandez and Stein ahead of him. Nathan Teller brought back in the January transfer window. No goals, no assists for him. Bit of a shame, but he was used more as an impact sub on that right hand side to give us a bit of pace. Similar player to Suleimana, although he is a couple of ratings higher. 2 goals though and 1 assist for Kamaldeen. Again, didn't feature too much, mainly off the bench. But yeah, he actually had better figures than Nathan Teller, who featured quite a lot after signing in the January transfer window. Tom Fellows didn't feature too much. Played a couple of games early on in the campaign, but was quite far down the pecking order. And he's just here for squad depth. Doesn't get on the pitch too much. It's mostly garbage time for the former Baggy. Fatawu, really difficult one, because I do get on with him in game. He's got lovely feet, really low centre of gravity, but his goal contributions just aren't quite there. Second year in a row we've struggled with him. Just 2 goals and 2 assists. And is he good enough to take the step up to the Champions League? I'm not really too sure, so I'm not going to actively look to sell him. He's still growing slightly as well. He's got 3 years left on his deal, but if a big bid does come in, I wouldn't be against cashing in if we can get a big chunk of money for him. Elliot Cole developing nicely out on loan. We saw a big spike for him at the start of the season as he headed out to Red Star. Sam and Dibbling, there they are, both of those two back. They've not really grown as much as I would have liked. May look to send them out on loan once again. We've got Trezor Barney, who, I mean, look at that, he's what, 4 years younger than Tyler Dibbling and now the same overall. Potential to be special. We love to see. We'll add him to the loan list. Hugh Sharp as well. He's got another year out on loan. We've got some real exciting players, especially in those wide areas. But as for our strikers, Evan Ilson was the main man. 12 goals last year in the Premier League, 6 more this campaign, 18 in 37 with 4 assists as well. I was thinking if we didn't qualify for the Champions League, he would definitely have to be sold because he's way too good to be playing for a team not in Europe's elite. But even with us qualifying, there may still be interest. Just 2 years left on his deal. Maybe interest from one of the big boys. We'll have to wait and see what happens, because even in the Champions League, I wouldn't stand in his way of a move to a Real Madrid, a Barcelona, a PSG, a Man City, somebody like that. But fantastic season for the Brazilian. Sekou Mara didn't feature too much, but he probably will get a bit more game time next year now that we're playing in Europe. Still just 24 years of age, up to 76 overall, and he did bag us a goal in the Premier League this season. As for Cameron Archer, I don't know what to do with Cam. I might look to cash in the summer. He's on the important squad role. Is he good enough to make the step up to Champions League football? I'm not too sure. He's never been a prolific scorer for us. I may look to bring in a new backup striker next season. 4 goals for him in just 18 appearances, with a lot of them coming off the bench. But I just don't feel as confident when Cam is in the starting lineup. And then we've got Don Ballard coming back from his loan at Hull. I might actually look to keep him and loan him out, as he's developed quite nicely. And also Connor Cox on loan at Shamrock. He is returning. He's not had quite the boost I was hoping for, but yeah, he will probably get loaned out once again, along with Joseph, who's already been approached by Nice. I've only just promoted him, but we will look to loan out Joseph as well. I'm going to try and get all of the Rwandan front 3 boys out on loan next season. Well guys, that is going to do it for today's episode. This one has been mainly me just going through the squad, looking ahead to next season, as we usually do to close out the campaign. But Champions League football will be heading to St Mary's for season 4. We're still a 4.5-star team, and depending on our transfer budget in the summer, I would like to try and raise us up to the next step and make us a 5-star team. Not that it really makes too much difference, but we are now playing in Europe's elite. We want to try and stay there for next season as well, so it's a big transfer window to come in the next episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I'll catch you for that next episode tomorrow, where we're going to be kicking off season 4 of The Save with the summer transfer window. Take care guys, and peace.